So I'm going to be talking a little bit about an application that I developed that leverages both Salesforce and a little bit of statistics. So to give you a background of myself, my name is William. I just moved to San Francisco from Washington, D.C. To start a new job at a company called Apartment List. And one of my 2020 resolutions, which is part of the reason why I'm here, is I have learned so much through Trailhead and through people in groups just like this, and I decided I want to start producing some original thoughts, start adding a little back and having some ideas of my own. So this is my sort of first crack at that. I want a way to simplify the complexity of a lead object that includes any number of fields and try and come up with an accurate indicator for segmentation that is based in statistics. And then I want to be able to visualize these segments for stakeholders so they can see, here's what a realistic segment looks like in our org so that we can better leverage around that. So the statistical foundation for this was I was going to do a principal component analysis, which would take 53 random variables in the Salesforce object and condense them, reduce them down to 2 to 4 principal variables, which for those of you who don't know, is essentially running a bunch of regressions on it until you can take it down to a lower level. So I sort of visually represented what this looks like. So if you look at this, for instance, this scatter plot, and this is right now in 2 dimensions, and you want to reduce this down to 1 dimension. So this would be a bad way to do that. If you just projected it down onto the x-axis, you get sort of jumbled data like this, where it looks like blue and yellow are overlapping, and you lose the actual distance that exists between those clusters. So what we're trying to do is use an algorithm that can condense it down to 1 variable, but keeps the distances that you would see in the clusters so that you can understand what's called a Euclidean distance, but basically is a difference between 2 sets. So I want to be able to take these leads and see okay, those are in 3 groups, and reduce that down. So I had to do this in Python, which I know Salesforce developer group, but there's a really cool Python extension library which called Simple Salesforce, which allows you to essentially do SOQL queries in Python Jupyter Notebook, which is incredibly useful because Python can extend the normal functionality of Salesforce times 10. So I built a t-SNE algorithm that would take this high-dimensional data set, 93 random variables, and condense them down to just 3 variables. And what that looks like when I ran it was this. So you'll see, I put this in a 3-dimensional graph, and I'm able to look at the leads I just put the status of the lead. And you can rotate around and kind of visualize, okay, this is what the object actually looks like with the data inside of it. And you'll notice, maybe the first thing that I noticed is that there seem to be 4 different clusters within this data. So this was something that I wanted to drill down on. I wanted to look in and try and figure out how are these clustering. I see within each cluster too, even the ones that are closed are close to cluster together versus the ones that are still open. So this I wanted to capitalize on and try and push this data back into the org as our segments. So here in the next slide, I was able to identify, okay, here are the 4 segments that are produced in this data. So this was incredibly exciting, and we're I wanted to share this because it's an instance of how you can leverage Python, which is an awesome programming language, but also how you can take statistics and use it to really extend your functionality in Salesforce. Not just sort of doing the clicks and codes to build the functionality, but how do we do it intelligently? How do we leverage the data that's in Salesforce to its fullest extent? So that's something I'm really excited about, and if you're interested, after the Q&A, I'd love to talk to you a little bit more about how you can leverage statistics in your Salesforce solutions, how you can maybe save yourself from needing to buy an expensive BI software, and then also how you can build compelling visualizations that will wow your team. When you walk in with a 3D graph, that's not what they're expecting from a Salesforce resource, but it gets them really excited, gets them loving Salesforce and loving what you can do with Salesforce, which is what it's all about. Thank you.